This video is sponsored by CuriosityStream and Nebula. Nebula is the home for my new original series, Great Cities. My most recent video in that series, which launches with this one, is all about the design of another planned capital city, Canberra, Australia. That video is longer and higher budget than this one. It's awesome if I do say so. It also joins the other video in the series on Paris's boulevards. New videos in the Great Cities series drop every month. Sign up to Nebula so you don't miss any. No planned capital city captures the spirit of post-war modernism quite like Brasilia. Lucio Costa's plan for Brazil's new capital city is a prime example of planned rationality, of using a plan to create order. The plan, called the Plano Pilota or pilot plan, is quite simple, and yes, it definitely resembles an airplane. The primary axes are set along a skeleton made of highways. This is a city designed first for the car, then people. The wings are primarily for residential blocks, and residents can use that central highway to get to the other districts of the city. The area where the wings meet the fuselage is the true heart of the city, the social space filled with theaters, restaurants, cinemas, and the central bus station. Most of the fuselage contains the monumental sector, which actually contains more than just monuments. It does house the major buildings of the Brazilian government, but also stores, banks, and small industries. Finally, there are areas dedicated for open space and recreation. Amenities include amusement parks, a zoo, and a sports complex. Now, there is even more complexity when you focus in on these areas. In the residential sector, you'll find that within the original planned city west of the W3 Avenue is primarily single-family row houses. 2 rows of houses face a green space with pedestrian access. On the other side of the wings, along L2, you get affordable 3-story apartment blocks. But there is one part of the sector that's perhaps just as novel as the Plano Pilota itself. It's this area in the center of the wings, made up of the superquadra or superblocks. Each superblock is 300 meters by 300 meters. The residential buildings are 6 stories tall and raised on pillars. The idea is that someone should be able to walk from one side of a superquadra to the other unimpeded. It also accentuates the importance of the ground plane in landscaping. Today, with 60 years for the trees to mature, superquadras are quite verdant. Each one is also surrounded by a green space, effectively acting as little greenbelts. Despite their location in the residential sector, superquadras are mixed use and meant to be miniature cities in their own right. In Costa's plan, each superquadra would have an elementary school. Superblocks also have shops, and the shops for one superblock face the shops of another superblock, creating a local shopping street. It's not the prettiest little main street, but it's functional. There is also a larger park per group of 4 superblocks. Additionally, the plan called for 1 district hospital per group of 8 superblocks. The whole system is very repeatable, logical, and modern. Perhaps the only analog to the superquadra is the superblock system found in Soviet cities. You can learn more about those superblocks in my video on the topic. I'll put a link below and in the corner of this video. While the wings are surprisingly interesting when you look more closely at the urban structure, this is definitely less true when you look at the fuselage. Maybe there's some hidden depth to lining up government buildings like dominoes, but I can't see it. The entire space within the original plan of Brasillia is exactly the opposite of traditional cities, the kinds of cities modernists are critiquing and outright rejecting back in the 1950s when Brasillia was designed. In traditional cities, the buildings form the fabric of the city, and it almost appears like the streets have been cut out of that fabric. Brasillia flips that equation, and open space is the default, and the buildings are added to that space. In architecture, the terms are figure and ground. Traditional cities are more figure than ground, and Brasillia is more ground than figure. You could say Brasillia was a pioneer because low-density suburbs found in the post-war years more closely resembles Brasillia than central London. When buildings stand alone in the landscape, it does give architects an opportunity to do something interesting with their designs. Those buildings don't have to blend in with all of the other nearby buildings. Now, Brasillia does have its share of uniformity. Costa designed Brasillia for the mixing of social classes, and the uniformity of building design was part of his egalitarian vision. But he did give his collaborator Oscar Niemeyer a chance to flex his considerable architectural skills. He got to design buildings in the most important places on the Plano Pilota. Each of them is bold, using simple forms to achieve something rarely seen in architecture. Niemeyer's Centauro National Theater occupies a space right where the wings and fuselage meet along the major highway. The cultural complex of the Republic, home to the National Library and National Museum, as well as the iconic Cathedral of Brasillia, are also located at the intersection of the fuselage and wings. Moving past the repetitive ministry buildings, you get more Niemeyer icons. They are everywhere. the Ministry of Foreign Affairs building, the Palace of Justice, presidential offices, Supreme Court building, and of course the National Congress building. The last three buildings are tied together by the Niemeyer-designed Three Powers Plaza. Niemeyer designed over 24 significant buildings in the capital, and took full advantage of having a lot of ground to put his figures on. This monumental architecture and urban design is not usually compatible with a human-scale city. Most of us would rather be strolling here than, say, here. But if there's any time and place for an urban designer to create spaces for monumental architecture, it's in a newly designed capital city. Capitals serve multiple functions. Of course, they must house the bureaucrats that make the day-to-day operation of government work. Capitals also must be places for people to gather and express their political views, assuming the country allows such speech. And a capital must be a symbol of the nation itself, and the urban design and architecture are common ways to do this. What then was Brazil trying to communicate to the world with the construction of Brasilia? Why relocate the capital from Rio de Janeiro, a massive city well known the world over? President Kubitschek believed that building a modernist capital city from scratch would have a positive effect on the creation of a more modern Brazilian society. Brazil at this time was obsessed with projecting a modern, progressive vision of its nation to the world. Nowhere in the world adopted modern architecture so wholeheartedly than Brazil in the 1940s and 1950s. Brasillia embodied this progressive, futuristic ideal. Now, Brasillia might have felt futuristic 60 years ago, but today it can feel a bit dated. Back then, designing a city around the car felt like the future, but today people's tastes have changed. Many people would rather live or visit a city like this. Brasilia became a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1987 due to its modern planning and architecture, but this now means it's very difficult to reconfigure the city to meet those modern tastes. For better or worse, the highway will always be at the heart of Brasilia. There is one important postscript to the Costa plan for Brasilia. Most residents of the city don't actually live in the planned area. The airplane was only designed to hold 500,000 passengers or so, but today the Brasilia metro area has over 4 million residents. Brasilia's suburbs are not the density of Rio or Sao Paulo, but they are certainly more normal looking than the superquadras of the Plano Piloto. For all of the thought Costa and Niemeyer put into their plan, many, if not most, Brasilia residents don't even interact with that area on a daily basis. The wings of the plane are home to mostly wealthy residents, while everyone else lives in the suburbs. Costa criticized administrative incompetence as the main reason why the planning area did not end up having a mixture of different social classes living in all neighborhoods. Costa's initial plan of expanding Brasilia for increased population capacity was to incrementally add more mixed-income superblocks and other planned housing depending on need. But as we can see, that didn't happen. It will always be a difficult task for an urban designer to design a national capital from scratch. A bold vision can often be eroded by the realities of politics, demographics, and budget constraints. Brasilia is a great example of this, and so is Canberra, the planned capital city of Australia. It too featured an iconic design filled with new ideas for a new era. And just like Brasilia, reality didn't quite match up with the plan. If you want to watch an entire video on Canberra, one longer and fancier than this one, go check it out over on Nebula. It's the second installment of my new series, Great Cities. Paris's Boulevard was the subject of my last video, and Shanghai's metro system is coming next month. New episodes of my series drop every month, so go sign up now so you don't miss any. Great Cities joins my other content you can't find anywhere else, like my video on planning ancient Rome, or the 13 short bonus videos, or the 20 videos with extended endings. On top of all that, other great educational creators also post hours of additional content on Nebula. Creators like Real Life Lore and Wendover Productions. All of this content is ad-free too. Signing up for Nebula is a great deal, and it's made even better thanks to our partnership with CuriosityStream. CuriosityStream is the source for high-quality, engaging documentaries. If you like learning about Brazilian cities, CuriosityStream has one called Rio, the Great Saga, about the history of Brazil's most famous city and former capital. It's a great follow-up to this video. We have a deal where if you sign up to CuriosityStream using the link below, you'll get Nebula for free. That's not a free trial, but free as long as you're a CuriosityStream member. And they're running a special deal where you can get an entire year for 26% off. That's less than $15 a year for Nebula and CuriosityStream. Signing up is a great way of supporting this channel as well as the dozens of other creators working to make Nebula a success. Overall, it's just a really good deal too. So go click on the link on screen and get 26% off.